Buckle up and come for a ride with the Hoonatics. Cars, bikes, and anything else with an engine in it. Let's go.
Well, good morning, guys. It is 6:05 on Thursday morning.
Excuse me while I just have some coffee.
Absolutely. Yeah, I don't even know where to start. I have a hallucinogenic feel about myself this morning where I'm having an out-of-body experience. I believe I'm in a podcast talking to Mark Boxer, but I don't normally wake up this morning this early with guys that look like you. It's a very surreal experience, so I do apologise for wherever this goes this morning.
I do not know how to even approach what you just said with any... Yeah, I think... All right, so we're doing a podcast today, and this is...
Notice I didn't complain.
This is the first
I just said it was confusing.
I wouldn't complain about me either.
At my age of 45, I will experience everything in life, and waking up with you at 6 o'clock in the morning, well, it was actually 5 o'clock.
I'm just going to look at Rory, the producer, and say, hey, Jason was talking about how well he's going to be doing time management this morning.
And then look at this guy next to us. We haven't even introduced him.
Ripped in about 5 minutes of garbage from Jason's mouth.
3 guys before 6 o'clock in the morning. Man, my tally's doing good.
I'm wearing my Takata t-shirt today. You're wearing...
The Willworks Tarmac Company. Hang on a second, I'll turn around. The best bit's on the back.
Bit of a quick shout out to Joe and Matt there at Willworks.
I know.
Still pounding the pavement and putting tyres on and off every day.
Why are we wearing Japanese early 2000 inspired attire and couture this morning?
Well,
my single browed friend.
You know, thinking of the YouTube version of this podcast, we could probably do the podcast like this, sideways.
Well, if we're talking about what I think we're going to be talking about, I'm actually in a very natural setting with headphones on and a microphone in front of me. So we are going to talk this morning about drifting.
Yes.
About drifting. That was the most unenergetic introduction.
Yeah, I think you should be doing more.
We're not going to talk about drifting! How's that sound?
Yeah, that was pretty much Eastern Creek on a Saturday night at World Time Attack type.
Is that a little bit better? Sorry, yeah. Rory. Sorry, he wasn't ready for that. Now we're awake. Let's talk about drifting.
I want to go back to bed.
Because ironically, quickly, at 6 o'clock on a Thursday morning in Adelaide, if you're going to go drifting, not that we advocate you do that Adelaide would be the best place to drift right about now, at about 6 o'clock. Because let's face it, nothing happens till about 8 o'clock. So you got 2 hours of goodwill time, which brings us to our guest. Let's get straight into it, because we've got a lot to cover. Yeah?
All right. Welcome to the studio, Jake Jones, the DRIFTSQUID.
Hey mate, how are you?
G'day guys. Yeah, I'm good.
He's already drifted out of his seat there, drift back in towards the microphone.
It is extremely early, and
did you sleep in your ute?
I wish I did.
Have a bit of cat food this morning.
I had to leave at like 4:30 this morning to get here.
I must admit though, like you not being the full-time professional porn star drift car driver that you are. You are a Sparky by trade, so Sparkies, usually have to get out of bed pretty early.
Yeah, pretty early.
But, so don't complain too much.
No, I'm not. No, it's actually good to be here. It's good to see you guys. Haven't seen you in a while.
It has been a while, and I'm wearing a shirt that I reckon I haven't worn for nearly about 10 years. But I want to put the whole thing quickly into context before we crack on, all right? We're in South Australia in Adelaide. The little old bit, if I do it in reverse... do it in reverse so the camera can see this bit down the bottom here. The reason we're talking about drifting this morning is because drifting actually has a very special start in South Australia, in Adelaide. It was the state, it was the town where drifting first began in Australia, here in a little old industrial area called Wingfield, by a crazy Fruit Loop that we tried to get in, so you're actually our second string guest. Oh, bad luck, it is what it is.
He's actually lying there.
Yeah, he's actually in Glenside still. Danny Denzo Vahumis. He brought drifting to Australia. He started it in, and I have it penned down here for 1998, right? And I'm being dead serious now. 1998, I was driving a black 1991 Suzuki Swift GTI owned by Mel, my then girlfriend at the time, and I got a call to say, come out to Wingfield and check something out. And the call was made to me by Martin Donnan on my Nokia phone. Came out. Donnan was there with a I reckon it was an AU XR8 he was doing E85 testing on. I if my memory serves me correct, a red one. Get there, and I said to Donnan, what are we doing? And Martin goes, watch this, Jace. And then all I saw was some lights in the distance, and some dude comes around the corner in a Series 4 RX-7 going, ning, 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 ning. And I'm like, what the hell was that? And he goes, Jace, that's drifting. And it was one of the earliest times I saw it. Happened here. Fast forward, and then we have a monkey like this sitting next to us.
And
weird,
I will, outright say, if anyone argues with the fact that drifting didn't start in South Australia and Adelaide, they can go and jump off something.
And I'm looking at Darren Appleton, like with big eyes.
Oh, he was early, but I think Denzo was he was the instigator. You know, being brought up around Japanese importing and family and all that sort of stuff. He was all over it. And yeah, same for me. I remember the first time seeing all that out there, meeting Denzo, doing stuff on Full Boost back in the early days.
JJ Abrams, James Dean Martle, guys like that.
My one quick little Denzo, I mean, there's lots of Denzo stories and everyone's got a Denzo story, there was a big get-together at the old Japanese Motorsport out at Cavan. It was mental with cars everywhere, cars up and down the street, dudes doing donuts and stuff in the car park with hundreds of people around, music playing, DJs, everything like that. Then Denzo gets on the microphone and basically everyone goes quiet and he's sort of making an announcement.
It's like God's talking.
And we're all like, oh, you know, shit, this is going to be serious. And he's like, you know, if you and in my best Denzo, if you're going to go out and do a stupid drift on the street, and I'm thinking, he's going to tell everyone not to because, you know, watch out for cops. And he goes, make sure someone's filming it. And I'm like, oh, and that was the announcement.
Yeah.
And that's just Denzo in a nutshell.
It was awesome. But
anyway,
the special guest we have here in the studio today was a prodigy and product of the early drifting days, because it obviously got him by whatever short and curlies he'd managed to grow at that point in time, turned him into a track-orientated driver, which has quickly turned him into a household name in drifting in not only Australia, but is gaining a fearsome reputation around the world. Mr. Jake Jones, a.k.a. the Drift Squid. How's that for an intro? Is that good?
Yeah, it's good.
That was not too bad?
Yeah, it was good.
Well, let's kick it off. Let's get started.
I've got one quick question to start off with, and I can assume that I know the answer to this already, but I've never really bothered asking it. Where did the name Drift Squid come from?
Yeah, that's what I was going to go.
Lyndon Reynolds.
Yeah.
Yeah, he started calling me Squid, and
AKA Lindo.
Yep.
But why Squid?
Because I had this giant afro, and every time I went in the wheelworks, he just called me Squid. I don't actually know the reason behind it.
He was still finding himself at the time. He didn't know if he was vegetarian, pescatarian, malaminarian, whatever you want to call him. He's still a confused individual.
The new one's flexitarian.
Flexitarian.
That's when you're a vegetarian, but you only eat meat every now and then.
Oh, wow.
Anyway, but yeah, big shout out to Lindo, our mate.
So Captain Carrots is his new name.
So that's where it come from. And then I had this, I don't know if you've seen, obviously you guys would have seen the giant afro, but shaved it off for charity and it's never grown back. So
actually, downstairs all straight.
Yeah,
if that's curly.
Let's
is the hair downstairs? I've never wondered about afro guys.
While you're talking about the haircut, I guess my history with you, Jake, was we met through a mutual friend now, Christian Hansen, aka CT from Yokohama. He was a really good dude. He basically had a heap of faith in you and me.
Yeah.
You with the drifting as a new guy, heaps of talent, wanted to put you on Advan tyres through Yokohama, Australia, and through me being a video producer, doing stuff for Yokohama. So that's how we met.
Yeah.
And our first introduction
foray.
Well, we met basically in New Zealand. I think. Yeah, I went to New Zealand with, was it Baker?
All right, okay, this is getting a bit weird and a bit too romantic.
No, we went to New Zealand. Jake got a wild card, you'd call it, into D1NZ.
Yeah, I was just the only kid in Australia willing to spend a lot of money to go there, I think.
And then that's how we met. So Jake hadn't done much video. I'd done drifting stuff in the past with Drift Australia and Full Boost and that, but yeah, we met and started smashing out a heap of videos. And,
roll the tape. And
let's talk a bit about Jake's history, and then we'll get to the hair one, I think, because that was a bit further down the track. So yeah,
I just remember you used to wear a beanie and used to have it all packed in.
It was
but you
easier
still looked
that
like
way.
you had a stack hat on the top because you had that much hair in the beanie.
Let's talk about you, Jake. When you first got into drifting, tell us about when you got your first drift car, what it was like for you when you first jumped in and had a crack at it.
Yep. Yeah, so I actually bought my first drift car off of Paul Aussie Austin, and it was a CA powered SIL 80, and instead of no, it was white.
Was it?
It was white when I first got it, and instead of me sort of building a car up and learning to drift, I thought I'll buy one that I know already can drift. Then it's all on me, you know. Like he proved it. It was on the podium all the time, and I bought it. Watched a heap of videos online on how to drift, and thought, right, it's time to give it a crack. So I took it out to Malala. This is with no street drifting history or anything like that because I was too scared. And it was like first or second lap. It's one of my very first laps around Malala, straight in the wall, coming onto the straight. Just understeered and locked all fours up and went straight in the wall. And then that's how I met the guys at All Type Crash. And they helped me fix the car up. And then we sort of created the friendship there, and they helped me get my skills up from, you know, absolutely nothing to pretty well what they are now, you know. They said, if you want to learn, you got to follow people. And
That would have been Hayden Buckham?
Yep. Yeah, Hayden Buckham. And so the next event I followed him around. And then he sort of followed me and pushed me. And that was the biggest step for me. And, but yeah, in between that, I blew an engine up. I spent 20 grand before I even went through a set of tyres. And I was really thinking about like pulling the pin, like this isn't for me. And then as soon as I sort of created a friendship in drifting, it really took off from there. And
How old were you then, and what was the first sort of point where you realised that this is your thing?
I was 19, and I did this. Do you remember the stadium drift competitions at AIR? Yeah, I did that competition. That was my first comp ever. I think I come dead last, but it was the most fun I've ever had. Like, it was just having a crowd react to what you're doing. I was hooked. I instantly turned into like a show-off, I think.
I think AIR's interesting too, and for those who are listening, Adelaide International Raceway, the kind of, you know, it's doomed for a slow death now, but Bob Jane's old track with the big bowl on it, and the bowl being infamous for drifters where you either get it right or you get it really wrong. That
was the exciting bit, I think, and I was like so nervous about doing the bowl. It took me all day to get the balls to do it, and then once I did it, it was like a drug. You just wanted to keep going. It was insane. So,
well, AIR's been an interesting place for a lot of different reasons. There's a lot of history there, and if we look back now on our time as drifters, it's become a track that is going to be like Lions Raceway in California that was closed down, and we were the ones that were there. We were the ones that saw it. But the first time I ever saw somebody come around the bowl was Danny Verhoomis. There was only ever one or two guys that could actually drift the bowl, and everyone knew that you would try and strive for it, but if you either got it or you didn't. And for the people who are listening at home, the AIR bowl was a high banked oval turn that was a right hand turn coming onto the drag strip, and it was what sort of angle do you reckon that thing was sitting at? 25 degrees?
Yeah, I guess. I mean, like talking about the bowl though, like the same deal. Like I remember being there, I think out just for a... Google
it while you're watching the show. We might even put something up of how steep that bowl is.
But yeah, for me, watching people come around, it was so impressive. But then you see one guy who just gets off the gas just at the wrong point.
And it snaps.
Tries to correct it, and then all of a sudden, bang. There's the wall, 90 degrees. Thanks for coming. Because goodbye, radiator.
The drifting side of things is you talk about the drug. The drug, as I know it, and correct me if I'm wrong, is the balance. The balance of the car, the sweet spot when it gets into where you need to get it to do what it needs to do. You're like, yes. It's that's the drug. That's the juice.
Pretty much. Like if like when you nail a run, that obviously it's a judge sport, and if the judges say, look, we want you to do this, this, and this, if you do exactly as they say, and like obviously you don't know until you get back in and find out, but if you got that feeling in your head that you've just nailed everything perfectly, it's like it's insane.
That early stage there, you won a comp or something like that, and then that led to you.
DA 2009. I was a privateer. Went and did that, and you still had your, Team Toyo, you had your Fink in the Holford's car, and there were still some drivers that were in some really good cars. And with a bit of luck and, how drifting sort of works out, we ended up coming third in that event, and it sort of, everyone that didn't really know me then sort of was like, oh, who's this kid, So that was huge for me, 2009. And then I just wanted to elevate it as much as I could. So 2010, I'm like, I'm getting whatever I can or doing whatever I can to get to New Zealand and just keep this going. So that was the...
So you headed across to New Zealand, and at that time, the Australian drifting side of things fell by the wayside. The original owners of Drift Australia, who had sort of taken over from Full Lock as things had progressed from 2006, 7, 8, 9, they pulled out. They got out, and it became a private deal. There was a Queensland promoter that was sort of running events, but realistically, the TV had died in Australia. It was off the table. The one at the time it was 1HD. I think they called it 1HD or whatever it was, something like that. And New Zealand was really the place in the southern hemisphere where drifting was still very strong, and it had a lot of people eyes on it. Tell us about your experience going over there.
It was honestly the best and the worst time of my drifting career for sure, because I think New Zealand was booming so much because people like Mad Mike, like he was such a iconic name, and it was just,
attached to Red Bull.
Yep. And like I was even hooked, still am, and he's now a really good mate of mine, but it was just one of those things where you get up in the morning and you'd check Speed Hunters, refresh it just to see if there's any new stories on drifting and Mad Mike or whatever, like it was before the Facebook took over and all that. But no, I shipped the car over, worked out my budget, because I was obviously still working at a winery. I'm like, if I keep making this money a week, I can save up enough for each round to get back over there, get the things I need and transport. And I was literally living week to week, making it happen. Got over there, the first round, obviously Boxer had come over to film it, and I think what happened, the oil pump broke on the very first practice day. So yeah, back to the workshop, and we sort of created the partnership with the workshop and got through round one without qualifying because they thought my car was a different car or something. There was a huge mix up. Remember that? There was like, it was a round robin thing. Like everyone just goes out and does lap after lap after lap to qualify, and they just watch it.
Yeah, and you did well, but I think there was judging or something like that that made it a bit tricky. But
we went up to the tower and we're like, oh, what did we qualify? And they were like, oh, you won out of the battles. Like you qualified one position out. And we're like, well, what was the scores? And they said, oh, you spun on one. But we never actually spun on one. And we had all the footage to back it up. That was so gut-wrenching. And but anyway, they said, judge's decision is final. And that day is when I realised it doesn't matter what you do in drifting, the judge's decision is final. So I've never protested. I've never done a single thing there. I've always thought, right, that's a final decision, move on and get on with your life.
So from there though, you went on to have a pretty good season over there, progressed, and I think I went to Hampton Downs.
Yeah, that was a good one. That was probably the only one where the car finished the event running still. I borrowed a car at one event because mine got stuck in the earthquake in Christchurch.
Like literally stuck in the earthquake?
Yeah, it was on a hoist and the power dropped, workshop flooded, so he couldn't there wasn't a manual override on the hoist, so the car was literally stuck in the air. And
that's not a bad thing, is it?
No, it was good. I felt sorry for the other cars at the workshop, but
pretty chaotic time too. Like we were there at the same time, and
this is in Christchert.
Yeah, the second big one.
Yeah, so we were there after the first one, I think, and we saw a lot of the carnage from the first one, and it was pretty.
Oh, it was
not
insane.
a great place to be. Yeah,
it was absolutely.
I think
insane.
even was it Ruapuna, the track there? Yeah, I remember them saying there was like a bump in the main straight after it.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Like all this black soot just comes out of the ground from. That was pretty insane.
Yeah, so moving on from that, I mean, give us a rundown, because I mean, obviously we could talk for hours. We've got so many videos we can play and stuff like that. But talk to us a bit about you partnering up with Yokohama but then also progressing into your new car and some of the places you've been and stuff like that. I mean, me and Jason will just shut up and listen, but yeah, like I know where you've been and what you've done, but yeah, it's been pretty awesome, and I think you're only just starting to scratch the surface of what you want to really do.
New Zealand to now, dance us through some of the places you've been.
Yeah, so after New Zealand, obviously shipped the car back, and my partnership with Yokohama got stronger, a lot stronger, and I sort of put forward a few crazy ideas, like, you know, you've got a team in Japan, why don't we try and organise something there? Like, I go over and, I don't know, work something out and maybe even drive for them, and then they, you know, ears pricked up, and we made a trip to Japan and put it forward to him. Went to the Yokohama factory, headquarters, and met Kumakubo, who was like, you know, still is like the god of drifting, you know, like he's the
like
owner.
The Peter Brock of drifting.
Pretty much. He's the owner of Team Orange and owns Abisu in the safari park and all that. And I met him there, and I was just, you know, I was speechless. I was this young kid with a massive afro on one side of the boardroom table, and he's on the other, and the whole meeting was in Japanese. I didn't know what was going on. And then right at the last second, he said, tomorrow, you come, we go drifting. And I was like, what? So anyway, the next day I got on that bullet train and went up to Fukushima, and yeah, he handed me the keys to his like drift school car, and I was the only one in the whole place. The entire mountain was just empty. And he said, go have fun, but just don't go near walls. So I just went and ran amok the entire day. It was sort of half snowing, so I didn't go through any tyres, just used a whole tank of fuel. And then come back, and that organised for me to basically come back and do D1 GP as a wild card. And I ended up being the first Aussie ever to do D1 GP in Japan in their GDB WRX Subaru. And that was incredible. That was, you know, like that there was a lot of things that led into that, but they basically said when I got there, you break it, you bought it. So it was very nerve-wracking, you know.
Did they say it with an Aussie accent like you did?
No. Basically,
did he have like a big Yakuza guy standing next to him? Like,
but it was
you'll
funny.
break it, we'll cut you in half.
But it was kind of a trick. So
you smell like whale.
So I pulled back like at least 40% of what I could have driven at, you know, just for that pure fact. And then at the end of it, I find out there was an insurance fee, and I was like, what? I could have pushed it the whole way, you know, everything was covered. But, you know, that is what it is. We still did really well. We pretty sure we out-qualified the other two foreign drivers that they had, so, but we just didn't make the top 16, which was unfortunate. But yeah, that was incredible. They talked about extending it, making it sort of like a bigger thing for the next year, but unfortunately their time in D1 GP was sort of going a bit downhill. Kumakubo pulled out, and I think they only got one driver in it now, even to this day. So moving from that though, like that was awesome, but then across the water in China. Talk to us about China. So that's where I met James. I met James Tang in D1 GP, and then a couple of years later he sends me an email basically saying, do you want to come to Hong Kong to drift? And it was in broken English, like it was...
And like, where were you? Up on the farm at Gawler, picking hay seeds out of your teeth, going, yeah, I'll go.
No, he was picking the gearbox out of his S13 for the 400th time there.
And I'm looking at the email going, I don't know if he's...
This is Danny Vahumas sending me a prank email.
And I'm like, I don't know if he's serious or if he wants me to go and watch or actually drive, but, you know, what have I got to lose? So I said, yeah, I'm keen. And then the next one was, book your flights, I'll pay you back. And I'm thinking, I'll just do it. You know, if it turns out to not be a thing, then I got a holiday. So, yeah, booked my flights, and he said, yeah, I'll meet you at the airport. So I got over there, and I'm at the airport in Hong Kong, and I'm standing there at the front. I'm like, I wonder if this is actually legit, you know? And then sure enough, out of nowhere, or probably took 20 minutes, he rocks up, and he's like, hey, and I remembered him from years ago. He doesn't speak great English, but yeah, he basically said, right, let's go. You got your visa? And I'm like, what? Visa? What for? He goes, we're going to China. I'm like, oh, you're joking. So I literally I had to change cars, and his wife had to take me across the border as a student so I could get into the country.
A student of what? Of love.
And they only gave me 5 days to be in China, so I literally had to do that twice.
But they'd built a car pretty much for you to drive, hadn't they?
Not at that stage.
No.
So this was like, I literally had no idea what was going on. So I literally got to China, and they said, right, if you can fit in that car, you can drive it. And I think the first couple I tried to fit in, it was impossible because they all make them to suit Chinese blokes. And
I have that problem with the clothing.
Yeah. And then, honestly, that turned into a 3-4 year relationship where I was...
What was the first car, though? Was that a Supra or something like that?
The first car was the Altezza.
Okay.
The red 2J Altezza. Yeah. And that thing was incredible. It was just like a 3.1 litre 2J with a TO4Z slapped on it, and you just held it on limiter. It was incredible.
Wasn't there a couple of weird cars you drove though, wasn't there?
Yeah, there was a lot. There was a Risto that I remember very well. It had a fuel leak, scared the crap out of me. But they had,
because it had a Chinese eBay fuel line on it. No, yeah.
But they had all the mechanics only know Chinese, they don't know English. So there was Momantai and Yamantai, and that's problem and no problem. That's the only 2 things I needed to know. So if a mechanic come up and there was a problem, I'll be like Yamantai, and they'd be like, where? And you point, and then they'd basically turn around and say Momantai. And, there's no problem. Just keep going.
Momentary.
Yeah. So when the fuel leak was there, I'm like rushing him over. I'm like, Yamantai. And he put his head in and just went, Momantai. I was like, righto. I just kept going.
He passed me a cigarette.
So he sniffed all of the fumes out of the car for you and made it clean.
Yeah. Pretty much.
But so they, because it was about that time you started building your current drift car.
Yes. So
but they also had a Beamer on the go there as well, didn't they? So
because of mine.
Ah.
Yeah.
Well, tell us about that because it's pretty interesting how you went in.
So basically when I was over there, I was obviously drifting 3-4 times a year over in China and Hong Kong. And I decided to start building a new car to try and, obviously get my drifting career progressing and get better sponsors and create better partnerships. So I found the E92 M3 that I got now. I found it on Gumtree, very cheap. And
Gumtree, the trading post of today.
And started building my ultimate dream drift car. So I pulled back from all my drifting here so I could put all my money into it. And then they started building an M3 which is only just finished now, but they did it with a 2J, and it's obviously all China spec. And they also built a Series 1 BMW which James is using now in Formula D Japan. But I went on to drive Supras, pretty much everything I drove, and if I did well they then sold it to a Chinese kid. So
because it had some notoriety that the Skippy had driven it done well, and it was worth money.
That's pretty much why I was there. So I was basically employed to
sell cars.
Yeah.
And I mean,
is that relationship ongoing? Are you still doing stuff with them?
No. So their series no longer runs anymore. There's no drift competition. So I think they only do demos. So there's only 3 or 4 of them.
But competition-wise, though, you won a couple of them over there, didn't you?
Yeah. First year I come second in the championship, and then the last year I was there, I won it. So I was.
What did you get?
The team won a lot of money.
Did you get a wife or anything?
Nah. No, it was.
You got a voucher for the eBay.
I took home a lot of prize money, but the championship prize money was. I don't know if they add zeros onto the check to make it look better, but it was pretty big. And I think that built the next year's car every time I won that. So
it's pretty cool. I mean, the experience of just being over there and being, token international celebrity drifter and stuff like that. Because that's led on to, where was it? You've done Indonesia now or Thailand as well?
Yeah, I went to Indonesia, Jakarta, to do a drift event through that. And luckily I got so many contacts now where, there's those emails coming in which I should be risking, you know. But yeah, I guess.
Well, tell us about, in the last week, any invitation you've had in the last 7 days to do anything to do with drifting.
Oh, no, I haven't got anything in the last.
He had
last
this
30
mate
days.
of his ring him up and say, do you want to come do a podcast about drifting?
Oh, no, I did. The last 7 days I got invited to Wakefield.
Wakefield, okay.
Yeah, and because I was there last weekend, they must have seen I was there. And they're like, oh, come next weekend, we got a drift day. We'll let you come for,
let you come. I like that. We'll let you come. What's the next international event for you that you want to attend or you want to go to?
D1NZ, couple of weeks. Next week, I'm off. Yeah.
So the car is there now, or car is going there?
I'm actually borrowing another car.
Really? What are you driving?
A GT86. So something I've never driven before. I could have in China, but I couldn't fit in it.
And tell us about the NZ car. What's the deal with that?
So this is a drift car backed by Galore Parts Group, NZ Vapor, and DKM Fabrication. These guys have put this car together purely built for international drivers to come over and do D1NZ. So huge thanks to them and obviously D1NZ. They invited me over to do the Pukekohe round, and that's round 4 of their series. I actually would have rather done the last series, but they got a clause where you have to do a minimum of 2 rounds if you want to do the final round. So yeah, I had no choice but to do the Pukekohe one. But I'm not complaining because it's going to be extremely fun, 200k an hour entries.
What's this thing got in it? What sort of engine's got in it?
2JZ with, I think it might have a stroker kit. I can't remember.
So your average 2J, 50 million horsepower at 50 million RPM. Yeah.
And it's got a sequential too, so
nice.
It's going to be wicked fun.
Well, that brings me to a question that's quite interesting because, there's an old saying that if the skill set is good enough, you can drift anything.
Yeah,
right?
yep.
And I mean, I know you got tractors up on the farm, and I know you would have swung them around a bit. Look at that. See, look, he laughs straight away. On cue. Laugh straight away.
I don't have a tractor. I don't have an SR20.
He doesn't even have a farm. He just he lives in the Barossa, yeah.
You lived outside of Gawler, didn't you?
I'm living at my missus' parents' house now.
Did your parents kick you out because you're too much of a financial drain on the bank of dad? Let's talk about the most unorthodox vehicle you've drifted. The most unorthodox. Something you thought, wow, I actually was drifting that. I can't believe it.
I drifted a left-hand drive Altezza, but it's a proper drift car, but it was just so awkward for me because I was on the wrong side of the car. I couldn't get my head around the weight of it all.
The gear stick being on the other side.
Yeah, all I had to do was hit a soccer ball into the goals and I was struggling. Yeah.
We've all been there. Moving on. Here in Australia, some of the early cars you thrashed because, let's face it, resources weren't exactly available at that time. You took whatever you could. Some of the early cars you tried to drift. Not enough to say where, but what you were trying to drift in the early days.
Oh, like Holden Gemini.
Yeah, here we go. Yeah.
The old paddock basher. Yeah, that was interesting. That was my dirt road car. So, I tried a lot trying to drift that.
Well, and 60 horsepower Gemini feels like it's 250 horsepower when you got dirt underneath, doesn't it?
Yeah. They were the good old days. Me and my mates, we all sort of had Geminis or Corollas but we didn't. I don't even think we really knew what we were doing. We were just sort of having fun, I guess.
We've had this theory that people who come from colder, icier, snowier climates are better sideways drivers than guys like people Australian and New Zealand because we drive where it's dry. But the throttle response of a fuel-injected car, turbocharged monster versus the throttle response of a dirty single carburetor 4-cylinder. As funny as it sounds, if you're learning in this capacity over here, where it's hard to drive that 4-cylinder naturally aspirated auto thing, when you step up, those grounding skills, those early grounding skills really take you a long way, don't they?
Yeah, I definitely think so. Like, I now have a few, like when people ask about how to drift or whatever, there's a few little techniques that I can teach someone, which sort of brings them from
novice? Yeah,
from a novice to like actually understanding how the car works. Sort of within half a day, you can have it nailed.
I think too, like talking about cars and that sort of thing, like one of the biggest videos I've had on HoonTV to date is the video from old mate from Running Free in Japan with his 86.
Oh, yeah.
The thing that revs to like 10 grand or something like that. And he's basically, as Aussie as I can say it, revving the piss out of this thing, clutch dropping it and all sorts of stuff. But it's so impressive to watch because the car's probably making like, 150 horsepower or something like that. But he's smashing it up everywhere around Tsukuba.
Yeah.
And
it's just super impressive to watch. And like you can tell he's having heaps of fun doing it.
Well, the little A86s, Mark, were designed around a 1.6 litre 5-speed twin-cam engine configuration, which was all designed about high revs and didn't matter the horsepower. The minute the inertia's going and the wheel spin's going and the weight was going, as long as you could control that, that's how it carried through. And then lazy goons like this guy here went, no, I need big turbo, right? Well, because then, you start dragging yourself through corners. Am I right?
Yeah. I've made my life hard, though, by building what I've built. Like, I could have just put a V8 in and, made life simple.
Oh, yeah, but I remember this discussion and what was the exact line you used when you were talking about putting a V8 in versus...
I'd never do it.
I'd love to have it written in front of me now because it was quite funny.
I don't think it's politically correct, though, is it?
Disgusting V8s.
Yeah.
Ugh.
But that being said, let's just touch on that for a minute because, I'm a fan and Mark's a fan of all mechanical configurations, rotary, V8, V12, whatever you wanted, a horse and cart. When you get a V8, the V8 is an unbalanced engine, but it's not necessarily about the horsepower, it's about the torque and the availability of the torque. And you've obviously driven a couple of V8 drift cars, have you? Have you spent some time in them at all? Have you driven anything V8 from a drift point of view?
No, I actually haven't.
Oh,
He missed the boat on that container loads of cheap LSs kicking around while they won't go into that one, but yeah. Those who know. Anyway,
so let's talk about torque. What's the torquiest vehicle you've driven from a drift point of view? Because there's a difference. Horsepower is how hard you hit the wall, torque is how far you move it, right?
Yeah, the 2J. The 2J in China, or all the 2Js I drove over there, have easily been the most torquiest thing I've driven. Honestly, it makes drifting so much easier. It's insane how much easier it is. You just have so much more control, because I like to drift with my throttle more so than anything else. Well, that's probably how most people do it. But
let's talk a little bit about that. I'm going to cut you off there, just because going back to your own car, like the Sonvia, you called it.
Yeah.
I'm going to play this video so Rory can maybe throw in a bit of overlay. This has also been a huge video on HoonTV. This is me. Well, we've got a bit of audio there. This is the one we called Raw Squid.
Yeah, that was a good one. That was actually you and me at a Malala practice day, and you just said, I want to come out and test my new mount out, and we created that.
What was her name?
Cut. But your style of drifting, you are loose, wild, massively sideways, and just... We're going to have to put Jason in the sin bin for a minute here.
6:45, that was a pretty good comment, really.
Yeah. And keeping that time in mind, remember we've still got a lot to talk about, Jason. So
we have. Well, you talk about that car, and that car was one of the cars that brought you infamy as a drifter, and people started to know. And you had mechanical issues in that car, but you overcome and you kept on going, didn't you?
Oh, yeah. You had many. I blew, I think it would be well over 12, 14, it'd be like 14 standard gearboxes I would have destroyed.
But that's pretty common for anyone with a bloody Nissan gearbox. They get the point where...
but you think you'd learn, you spent 14 grand on standard gear sets. Why didn't you just get a sequential and be done with it, or like a G-Force? But I didn't know any better, so I was just going down and seeing my mate Richie.
Well, we have a can-do attitude here in Australia.
So a couple of other things I wanted to talk about too was we mentioned earlier about the hair.
Yep.
And I wanted to speak quickly about, and I'm going to play this one as well. This was when you did the world's greatest shave, and we did a video for Yokohama about this.
Oh, and I lost my talent.
Yeah.
You lost your talent.
So the whole theory was CT from Yokohama being an advertising guy, he wanted to do something like Samson losing his power when he lost his hair. Well, Jason draws a stupid...
Yeah, I'm drawing a picture so people at home get an idea of Jake's afro.
So, basically what we did was we fudged it and made it look like when Jake had his head shaved, he lost all of his drifting talent and he couldn't actually go sideways. So we went to the costume shop, got him an afro wig.
He's the Hercules of drift.
And then
Hercules.
And then he was back on it again. But moving on, I wanted to chat to you about your aspirations. You've been talking about what you want to do next, your next big thing. And what is that? I mean, what's your huge goal for drifting?
America. That's been my goal for a long time now. Getting over to Formula D America. It's taken me a lot of time to obviously get everything ready for that. So I've built the car. The car's good. It's up to spec. It's ready to go. Obviously that's the Beamer, the new Beamer. And then I got my pro license. I got that once I won the championship in China. So I got the license, got the car. I literally just need to get everything on a ship, send it over, and make it happen. I know that sounds very simple, but to do a season of Formula D on an absolute shoestring budget, I'm looking at $100,000 minimum. Absolute minimum.
So have you got a backer? Have you got someone who's sponsor? Have you got somebody who you're going to use?
Not yet. I'm working on it.
Oh yeah?
Yeah.
Got some good leads?
Nope.
Do you know, just Mark and I, we don't drive drift cars.
He's
right?
the Burt Munro of drifting. He's going to get over there on a shoestring and win it.
I did New Zealand, and I'll get there.
Well, typical Australian, you're closer to America in New Zealand than you are here. You should have just kept on going to the next island, Fiji. Mark, we look at things a little bit different to people who are competitors, and we come up with different ideas and different suggestions, and we've always done that, and that's probably part of our personalities. I look at a couple of people I know from an Australian point of view who are over there with vested financial interests, and you could probably look into those. One of the guys who's I'll just be straight up, who's got the coin, who's got the entrepreneurialism, is a guy called Michael Gilbert from Power Cruise. And Michael Gilbert took 4 burnout cars and put them in Hoonigan and did burnouts.
I did see that.
Went to Brainerd and stuff like that. And I think the entrepreneurialism of Australians going into America loves us at the moment. We're fantastic. We're not offensive, and we bring a lot of colour. Your next challenge with all of this lined up is to really find a way there, isn't it? Mm-hmm.
This is the bit where I reel in Jason's time-sapping side stories.
I know, but the reality of it is,
Jake, if you fancy drifting a big block turbocharged HQ, Gup, we're all good to go.
Yes,
but no, that would be cool. Gup is a really cool dude, and he is.
I have actually contacted.
He's a businessman and a rev head, and the two combined.
An entrepreneur. Entrepreneur. Well, let's talk about America and heading across over there. Obviously, drifting still has a massive impact over there. It's a professional circuit. The focus was Japan. Now it's America.
Yep.
Tell us the way through and the competitions you have to go through to get to where you've got to go over there.
Like to get ready for it?
No, once you're there, are there different levels you've got to go through to get into the top competition?
No, not for me, because I've already got my pro license to go straight to Formula D USA. So if I didn't have my license, I'd have to do the Pro 2 series and then reach like top 3 at the end of that series to be able to then get into the top series. So it's like I could literally go over there. A lot of people, I don't know, some people will be like, oh, you can't just go over there and go straight to the top. You got to work your way up.
Yes, I can.
Yeah. When does the season kick off, and when would you need to instigate making all this happen?
Oh, I would have had to send the car like probably 2 weeks ago.
So you're talking 2020?
Yeah, I'm aiming for 2020. That's the ideal goal right now. And it starts in Long Beach in April, and it finishes in October at Irwindale. So
yeah, wow.
I'm going to go this year to watch. I'm going to head over there. I've made a lot of connections over there.
Any Chinese connection that can get you there?
Oh, there could have been, but honestly, it's so up and down.
It could be drifting a Great Wall.
Yeah, but I don't know if you guys have seen, they've got an electric drift car this year in Formula Drift.
No.
Yeah, they got a Tesla-powered Camaro.
I've seen that.
Yeah. So that'll
be interesting. I mean, the amount of torque those things make. So,
sorry.
I think it's going to be boring as hell, but
It'll be good for the tyre company because that's all you hear, the tyres.
Well, if you're smart, you know the batteries, opposites, push the you just have the charge and push the car away as you're going into it,
As the clock ticks away, Jace, I'm going to get back to our list of questions we actually wrote.
Questions, smestions. I want to know the juice.
Who are your heroes
my heroes.
and why?
My number one hero would have to be my grandpa. He hardest working guy I've ever known, and I honestly strive to be, just like him. If I can be half the bloke he was, then like he just worked his guts out his entire life, never stopped, and so he's my number one hero for sure.
As far as drifting goes, though?
Yeah, drifting wise, obviously look up to Mad Mike, always have, always will.
You're taller than him. You look down.
But he's, there's a lot of things that he does behind the scenes that no one realises, like him and his fiancée, Tony, they work so hard. They deserve everything they've got.
You say fiancée too, it's like, Mike, get it done already.
I know.
Yeah.
I remember
She's awesome.
He was engaged at Eastern Creek. What the hell?
But I mean, like jumping in on there, like we went to Mike's workshop ages ago in New Zealand, and he is the epitome of a sponsor's dream.
Yeah.
Always ready for a photo, win, lose, crash, blow up, whatever. He is, the guy.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, definitely. And like, there's a lot of guys in America I look up to. Like, pretty much everyone I follow on social media, I follow them for a reason, and that's to help sort of motivate you and whatnot. Like, I don't follow any negative people or anything like that. I think
you have an unwavering desire to achieve an outcome, and it's very rare for an individual to not have an agenda attached to that unwavering desire. But I think it's genuine with you that you just want to drive. You want to drive against the world's best, but you don't want to drive in V8 supercars or circuit racing or hill climb. No, you want to chase the drifting dream, which to some extent has gone off the boil here in Australia, but you recognise the need to do it on an international level. How does it just quickly finding your heroes and so forth? How does it feel to be? I'll just say it, a role model for Australian drifters. How do you see yourself in that picture? Have you ever considered that?
No, I don't look at it that way. Like I get messages and stuff all the time from like kids or just anyone in general asking for help or advice, and when I reply to them, they then come back with, "Oh, wow, I wasn't expecting you to reply," which that blows me away. Like I don't know if other drifters aren't replying or whatnot, but
maybe they're not available.
Yeah, I don't know, but if you can help someone by writing a quick few sentences, why wouldn't you just do that?
What do you put? Ask money from dad?
I think the thing is though is that like we wouldn't have you in here now if you weren't who you were, and like you've progressed through the ranks and you are a somebody to be look up to. So I'd take that as a huge compliment. And that was my next question. It's like, as somebody who's got a career in drifting now and accomplished a lot, and you're still young and you've still got heaps to achieve anyway and heaps you want to do.
I'm getting old though.
But drifting is good because it's like, unlike motorbike racing and stuff like that, you can just be a fat lazy bastard like Jason and just sit in the car and change gears and go sideways. But if you like, what would some advice be to young guys and girls out there that wanted to get into drifting? What if they said, "This is what I want to do, but I have no idea what I'm going to do to get into it"?
Because bear in mind, the Gemini is no longer available. And I say that I say that most amount of seriousness. Your reality is your rear-wheel drive affordable cars.
And side note there, if you did drift a Gemini now and break it, Dave Carey, our good friend from Garage of Awesome, would hate you forever because he's a Gemini guy.
How do you get into a sport where the raw materials, the resources aren't as plentiful?
I honestly think it's better than ever.
Do you?
You go on eBay and stuff is so cheap now. Like, you can get away with getting an R31 for,
He hasn't been on eBay for a while.
I don't know, but like even S13s or whatever, stuff's getting cheap.
$7,000, $6,000.
That's cheap.
Is it?
It's cheap. I guess it's one of those things that you get what you pay for though, because if you want to get in cheap and have something that's cheap and cheerful.
I spent $14,000 on my first drift car, and then.
Well, let's take my son. My son is 14 years old, Thomas, and he'd love to drift. He'd love to have a crack. He couldn't drive the stick up a dog's bum. I'll tell you that right now, right? He's not bad on Forza, but that's about it.
Yep.
And he said to me, Dad, it'd be good to have a drift car. And I sat down and thought to myself, the cheapest, most affordable manual drift car is a manual Mang Commodore.
Get it?
Right? You know, but that's kind of filling the void where, you know, an $800 Gemini, you kind of go, even now you'd have to spend almost $2,500 to get something that's complete and at least reliable.
But that's cheap. Like, when I was 14, I wanted to quit school and start making money so I could go drifting. So as soon as I turned 15 and got offered a full-time job, I quit and I went and started making money. And I saved up until I was 19 to get my first drift car. So it was like, and that was $14,000. I spent $20,000 before I went through a set of tyres. Like, I was...
You know what? I'm going to change my question a bit though, because building a car for drifting is not really, you don't have to have an engineer's degree to make something that'll go sideways. Like, you can find out all the info, but hypothetically, you've got some young drifter that's just built a car for it. They've pulled up at the line at the Witch's Hat there at Malalar for the very first time. What was the advice you've given them in the pits before they go out on the track when they're like, Jake, what do I do?
Take it easy. Don't do what I did. I just went flat out straight away and ended up in the wall. So, you've got so much time realistically. If you go out to a practice day, you have so much time to learn. And the resources now with drift schools, and there's so many ways of learning. Even I don't know the truth behind it, but all these simulators, apparently they're so realistic now that...
Now you're old. Now he's old.
Like, I've never even...
Simulator.
Yeah, I've never even done a drifting...
Yeah, but you've had the ability to do it, for real.
Yeah.
In an analog capacity, not a digital capacity.
Yeah. So what you're basically saying is don't go out on your first drift run like it's your one and only ever chance to do it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Which is what so many people do in so many different motorsports.
They do.
But the red mist comes down, the AC/DC's playing, and they go, that's it, I'm going to set the world on fire on my first lap. No one's ever seen me do it. And then they headbutt the wall in Malalar. Simple as that. Well, look, I got a couple of quick ones before we keep things moving forward. The highs and lows of drift travel. You're obviously away from work and away from family and so forth. What sort of impact has that had on your employment?
Yeah, I've had a few bosses that don't like me. Yeah. I actually did my apprenticeship while I was travelling to China, which was very interesting. And then I broke a ligament in my ankle as well that year. I think I had like 14 weeks off in that year, and I was meant to be learning like at trade school, and that was incredible. So I didn't last long at that job, and now I'm actually a contractor. So I work for an agency, and I literally tell them when I can work, and it works out really good. So I highly suggest, if you're a young kid and you want to do what I'm doing, get a trade so you can actually do what I'm doing now and work whenever you want.
Or just buy Bitcoin,
Yeah, so it's working out really good for me, to be honest.
So I think we're getting pretty close to running out of time, so I think we'll give you some open air space here to talk about your plans and stuff like that, and what you need to do over the next 12 months to get yourself ready for, so use this time to plug your car, tell us about what you're doing, where sponsors can reach you, what people need to search to check you out on the internet.
Yeah, so basically, everything is under the DRIFTSQUID banner. I've actually put a lot of time and energy in my YouTube channel lately, which is obviously DRIFTSQUID. And I'm doing that as so everyone can understand the highs and the lows of the whole process of getting to where you want to get. So as you would have seen, I uploaded the video yesterday of me losing an engine, which literally cost me a year's salary. Lost the whole thing. And that actually happened at Adelaide Motorsport Festival last year, and I've kept it a secret up until yesterday because I've now managed to get a new engine built, and the Beamer is back on track. So, these are the things that people like to hide, but I really just want to get it out there and show people everything that happens from the highs and lows, because every social media channel now is all about, look how good this is. It's all about the goods. It's never
welcome
about...
to the Hoonatics.
Yeah, it's the highlight reel of everyone's life.
Yeah, so I'm really focusing on that, and like I say, I'm going to get to America. I will make it happen. I'm not trying to sound cocky or anything, but I'm going to do whatever I can to get there. And
well, if you weren't that driven, you wouldn't have done everything else that you've done so far.
Yeah. So obviously, if you're a company wanting to get, you know, huge exposure, not only in America but worldwide.
You know what? You've got to put more in it. Huge exposure. Pass that like. So,
He's going to take Jason with him as his spokesperson.
yeah, I'll just stand behind him.
If I listened to everything he told me over the years, I would not be here today. I remember...
You'd already be there. You'd already be there drifting.
He told me to moon all the Japanese people when I went and did D1GP. He said, rock up in driver's like the introduction and just moon them all. I'm like, yeah, mate, that's going to work.
But cue Danny Verhumis's comments at the first event. What did Danny say? Make sure you film it.
But anyway,
And I mean, I picture it here now. Like, I mean, I spent a little bit of time in the States. I can
your sponsor here across your ass.
Cheap trailer, beat up old Chevy C1500 pickup.
Could you just imagine
living the dream though? It'll be so cool.
Is yours still over there? Your truck?
No, I sold it years ago.
Damn.
Yeah.
Could you imagine like the journey that you could follow me on? Like, imagine watching a video every day of what I'm doing. It'd be freaking amazing. Like. And I'm committed to do that as well. Like, I want to put a video out each day. I know it's not really professional. It's not like what you can do, Boxer, but like I still just quickly edit them, put them out there, and it's interesting, you know. Like, I actually used to follow a motocross rider who did the same thing, risked it all, bought a little van, and did the Supercross series, and it was the best freaking documentary sort of style thing ever. And I was hooked. Every day I'm like refreshing, hoping that upload a new video, you know.
And you know what, as a mate, but B as a you know, I'll use the term loosely, a media professional. I worked with you on your very first video on camera, where you're like, oh man, I don't really want to do this camera stuff.
Interviewing,
but now you're
John
just like,
Lester.
we can't get you shut up on camera. It's great. So like, as a brand ambassador or somebody, you know, out there looking after sponsors' requirements and stuff like that, you're getting up in Mad Mike territory. Yeah, you're not busting all the gang signs and everything yet, but it's definitely something that's beneficial to them.
Remember the beanie?
But yeah,
all the podcast listeners here are like, what is he doing?
I wish I had a photograph of his beanie, and the fro was like here, like it was like a low mullet, wasn't it?
Even like the mullet used to flap out the back of the helmet.
Yeah. As
I was going down the straight, like fishtailing.
Look, and I'm not going to digress. This is the reality of America. America is that, you know, you essentially, if you can find a sponsor, someone who's relevant in America, someone who can sell product, the world's going to be your oyster. You're on a journey, you're committed to doing it, and everything the Hoonatics and HoonTV and everybody else can throw behind you from Australia, it's worth every cent of it. You've been an awesome ambassador for drifting out of South Australia. And you know, there's a lot of history of drifting that runs deep into this state. And if you're the byproduct of that and the legacy of that, that's outstanding.
I'm going to do my pointing at you thing, because that means I've got one last question.
Yeah.
And we'll wrap after this. But above all, just like us, you're a car guy. So if money, open budget, what would you build? Obviously a drift car, but what would you build if you had unlimited budget?
Ooh, good question. Gemini.
Don't say Mazda 121 bubble either.
I've actually got something in the works.
Gemini Rocket Bunny kit.
And when you hear it, it'll be the first of its kind in this world. It's incredible. And it's happening this year. But it's going to be in the Beamer. But if I was to build I don't know. I'm pretty content with what I got, to be honest.
Land Cruiser.
He's going to put a front and rear RB in his Beamer just so that when one blows up, then the other one's still going.
Let's wrap up by saying that's the beauty of drift. There are no rules. There's nobody says you can't do this and you can't do that. And you can't put this engine in that car, and you can't cut that van in half and weld it at the front of a Volkswagen. You can do whatever you want as long as it works.
Yeah.
And the beauty about it is your personality can come through the cars. You are, for want of a better reason, a competition car crafter. Right, you build a vehicle to suit your personality, and on the track it goes. We wish you the very, very best of luck.
Thanks,
all right, we really do.
Thanks, guys.
You know, always remember where you come from. Always remember the people that actually made you and gave you all of those opportunities in life.
Called me JJ Dynamite.
Right, absolutely. All right, absolutely.
He said some pretty dumb things in the microphone over the years, and he's still doing it.
Listen to these. They have no idea.
All right. Thanks, Joe.
No, thanks,
been
guys.
Awesome. Can't wait to see how you go in New Zealand, and all the best for the future, and we'll hope to get you back in here at some stage when you're even more famous than you already are.
You can go and see him.
Roll the closer.
Get in, buckle up, and come for a ride with the Hoonatics. Cars, bikes, and anything else with an engine in it. Let's go.